Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're going to press a little deeper into the world of cooking oil, but we're going to leave the big industrial factories behind for a minute. We're looking at the story behind one company's safflower oil, a story they say is only possible because of the gentle, steady power of a bull.
So think about it. You're standing in the grocery store, looking at all the oils. What actually makes you pick one over the other? Is it the flavor, the health claims, or could it be something else? Something, like the story of how it was even made in the first place?
All right, so let's zoom in on safflower oil. It's one of those oils that's super versatile, a real workhorse in the kitchen, but it's often kind of overlooked. Well, the version we're digging into today claims to have a story that sets it completely apart from everything else on the shelf. And that whole story? It's all about the process.
The company behind it has a very specific name for this process. They call it the bull-driven method. And right away, you can tell they aren't framing this as some brand new, fancy invention. No, this is all about a process they say is deeply rooted in tradition.
So what in the world is ganuga, or bull-driven extraction? Well, according to the source material, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's an old-school traditional method where a bull literally walks in a circle to power a huge wooden press. The whole point, they say, is that gentle, unhurried pace of the animal.
Let's break down the mechanics here. It all starts with the bull, which is providing the raw horsepower, you could say. This turns the wooden press at what the company calls an unhurried, gentle pace. Now that super slow rotation is the key, because it means the oil gets pressed out at extremely low temperatures. And the whole stated goal of doing it this way, to preserve and lock in all the oil's natural qualities.
And right here, this is their main marketing angle. They position this method as not just different, but actually better. They go so far as to claim it surpasses even cold-pressed oils. And that's a term a lot of us already know and look for, right? Their whole argument is pretty simple. This bull-driven way is just even more gentle.
Okay, so we've covered the how. We get the process. But what about the what? What are the supposed results in the bottle? Well, that brings us to what the company calls its pure and natural profile.
The company really wants you to know this oil is pure. I mean, they list all the usual things you'd expect. No additives, no preservatives, no flavor enhancers. But then notice the language they use. They also say it's free from unnecessary additives and unwanted substances. It's a clever way to cover all the bases, leaving no room for doubt. The message is clear. This is simple, this is clean.
And all of that, the bull, the wood press, the slow pace, the list of free-froms, it's all building up to this one really powerful claim that what you get in the end is 100% pure and natural.
And to really drive that home, they use this quote to connect the product to you, the customer. See, they're not just selling you a bottle of cooking oil. They're offering a pure culinary experience. That shifts the whole thing from being just an ingredient to being about the feeling you get when you actually cook with it.
So, you have this traditional process, a big claim of purity, but how does it actually hold up in the kitchen? Let's follow it from the press all the way to the pan and see what they say about its practical uses. Okay, this is actually pretty interesting. The company's description of its profile is a little bit of a paradox. On one hand, they say the flavor is neutral, which is great because it lets your other ingredients be the star. But on the other hand, they describe its aroma as being like sesame oil and its taste as having a distinct nuttiness, almost like peanuts. And they say it's great for pretty much everything, frying, sautéing, even baking.
So, what does a process this steeped in tradition cost? Well, according to the source, a single bottle will set you back $17.99. That definitely puts it squarely in the premium cooking oil category.
But that begs the question, why? Why go through all this trouble? Why use a method that is, by its very nature, so much slower and more work-intensive? To get that, we have to look at the company's own philosophy, the why that drives the whole product.
So, the company, Organic Sphere, was started back in 2016. Their stated vision is all about sustainable and harmonious living. And their mission, well, it connects directly back to the oil we've been talking about. They aim to draw from ancestral wisdom and practices for modern health.
These are the commitments they put forward. Sustainability, a focus on community, and, of course, honoring that ancestral wisdom. This is the story they're telling, the philosophical framework for the product. It's how they explain why a modern company would choose to make oil with a bull-driven press in the 21st century. It all ties back to these core values.
So when you pull it all together, one thing becomes crystal clear. They're not just selling you cooking oil. They're selling a product that is defined completely and totally by its process. The story is the product.
And really, this all leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. In a world that's always pushing for the next big thing in the kitchen, what is the role of ancient traditional techniques in the food we eat right now? It's something to think about next time you find yourself standing in that cooking oil aisle.